Hey there, welcome back to the channel PantherSchools. My name is Amit Singh, and in this video we are going to talk about what is LWC local development and how it is going to be helpful for developers in order to develop the Lightning Web components and preview the Lightning Web components in the real time. Lightning Web component local development basically helps you to create your Lightning Web component and preview at the real time. We have seen that it is becoming really difficult for the developers to create LWC, deploy those, add those to the various targets, and then see the preview. Look, keeping that into the consideration, Salesforce has came up with concept called as local development, and there are three key steps that you need to perform in order to work with the local development. The setup is going to be pretty straightforward and easy. Number one is you need to install the Salesforce CLI. If you are already using VS Code, you are utilizing Salesforce VS Code for development, you already have this Salesforce CLI installed. If you do not have Salesforce CLI installed, then you can go ahead and search for download Salesforce CLI and get it installed. Second step is that once the CLI is installed, we need to install the plugin for the local dev. This is again the very pretty simple. I will show you, I will give you what are the commands that you need to utilize. And then the third step is to enable the local dev into the Salesforce target org. It could be a sandbox, production, or a developer org. Once all three steps has been completed, you are ready to utilize local development to preview the real-time updates. Some components you will have to deploy into the Salesforce org in order to see the preview, and some of the components you don't really need to deploy into Salesforce org. To download the CLI, what you have to do is basically you can navigate to this URL developer.salesforce.com/tools/Salesforce CLI, or you can download using the node.js, which I usually prefer to utilize node.js to download and install Salesforce CLI because it is just a simple command that we need to run npm install --global to make sure it is globally installed for your local machine, and then utilize @salesforce/CLI. This is going to install the latest version of CLI in your Salesforce machine. Step number 2 is basically downloading the local plugin. There are two commands which are given over here. One is you can utilize Salesforce sf plugins install @salesforce/plugin lightning dev, or you can utilize @latest at the end of the same command, which is going to help you to install the latest plugin, the latest version of that plugin. Any of these are fine. There could be a scenario where you are working with the sandboxes, you are working with the Scratch org, which are enabled with the upcoming releases. If you wanted to work with those kind of sandboxes or Scratch org, you need to install the plugin which is going to be @pre-release. For example, you have got a sandbox which is enabled with the next release, and you wanted to enable the local dev for that. Then you need to install Salesforce plugin @pre-release, which will help you to get that installed into the pre-release org. Next step is that you will have to enable the local dev. To enable the local dev, what you have to do is you have to log into your Salesforce org, navigate to the setup local dev, and then toggle the local dev sandbox in local dev checkbox in your org. You can see here this is what you are going to see in your Salesforce org, and you need to just toggle this checkbox from off to on, which will enable the local dev in your Salesforce org. If you wanted to utilize the Scratch org for the development, or you are using Scratch org for your project developments, then what you need to do is you need to add a tag. You need to add the tag into the project Scratch org definition JSON file. And what is the tag? It is enable lightning preview pref. This is the tag that you need to set to true in your project config definition file. This will basically help you whenever you are trying to create a Scratch org. You can go ahead and enable that toggle. You can enable the local dev into the Scratch org. This is a sample Scratch org definition file that I have got, and this is the key tag that we're talking about, where it has to be inside settings, lightning experience settings, and then there is an attribute called enable lightning preview preference. This is what we need to enable into the scratch arc. Now let's quickly perform the steps one by one. The first thing, I'm assuming that you already have got the CLI installed into your local machine. What we need to do is we need to install the plugin. This is the command which we have seen as well. sf plugin install @salesforce /plugin -lightning -dev @latest. Open the terminal. How the terminal needs to be open, if you do not know, you can go to the setup icon, and then from setup icon, sorry, not setup icon, on the, if you hover over on the top, you will see something called as terminal in the macOS, and then click on new terminal, which will open a terminal for you, and you will be finding the similar thing to the Windows as well. To install this, I'm going to run this through the super user command. So I will be using a command like sudo. However, you don't really need to use it if you are installing into in your Windows or Mac machine. I wanted to run through super user, that is why I will use that. One more important thing, if you are utilizing the company laptop and you have got the you have got some sort of VPN running, please disable the VPN before running this install command. Let's run this command. Because I am running as the super user, it is asking me to enter my password, and it is going to get installed, and it will install the latest version of the plugin for me. Now you can see here the plugin has been installed for me. Let's suppose that you wanted to install it for the pre-release, then you need to run this command. Once your pre-release version of the Lightning local dev has been installed, next step is you need to find the folder called as config, which will be sitting on the top. Under config, you will find something called as project scratch.org definition.json, and you need to add enable lightning preview pref to true under settings, lightning experience settings. This is the one thing that you need to do. Once you have installed your setup, next thing what you need to do is you need to open your Salesforce org, the org which is connected with your VS Code project. Let's go ahead and open it. Once you have opened your org, what you need to do is click on gear icon and click on the setup. This is the step number 2 that we are performing. We need to go to the setup, search for local dev, and once you search for local dev, click on local dev under lightning components, and this is how your local dev will currently look like. And what you need to do is you need to toggle this checkbox, toggle, so that you can see your local dev is enabled. And after you have enabled it, refresh it, and once you refresh it, you will see a yellow bar over here which will say that your local dev is enabled in your Salesforce sandbox. So Salesforce org, you are using sandbox, you are using a developer org, anything that you want to utilize, you can utilize it. Once this is done, now what you can do is you can create a simple component. Let's quickly create a lightning web component, and we can say local dev enabled, and inside this lightning web component we are going to have simple card LWC card. This is the lightning card, and that's it. I'm not doing anything, just a boilerplate code we have added over here. Now let's say that your component is ready, you haven't deployed it yet to Salesforce org, but you want to see the output. How you will see the output? There are two options that you have. One is basically you have got something called as sf lightning dev, and then you utilize either app, or you utilize either site, or you utilize component. These are the three options, these are the three different things which we can utilize in the local dev. What are those three options that we have already talked about? You have sf lightning dev app. This is for the lightning application which is generally available. sf lightning dev site, which is for the experience cloud LWR sites. These are for lightning web runtime sites, which is in beta version. That means it is a high value feature, however it is having a limited functionality. Then sf lightning dev component, for a component is in that you can run the component into the isolation. That is also is in beta version. That means again it is a high value feature with the limited functionality. So what we are going to see is we are going to see this component in the isolation. I will also show you that how you run this application preview as well. However, I would not be able to showcase the preview due to the limitation in my system, because that is what happens. I will show you. Let me show you actually. Let's say you wanted to preview any application that you're developing, sales, service, or any custom application you want to see how it will look like. You have to say SF, Lightning, Dev, and the application. If you hit enter, okay, make sure you are not having any typo mistake. If you hit enter, it will ask you which device you want to preview. You want to preview for desktop? I'll say yes. Then it will ask me which application you want to preview. For example, I want to preview for Sales Console. Hit enter. Once you do this, what it is going to do is it is going to basically open the application in the preview mode. However, this might look like that this is your Salesforce org, but this is actually in the preview mode. If you want, you can add your existing component inside your org, and then whatever the component that you can see in the preview, you can do it. This is not going to be the focus for us. Our focus is to run the component in the isolation. Once you have tested this application, let's go ahead and utilize Control C or Command C to quit this local dev which is running currently. And this time what we will do is we will say lightning sf lightning dev component and hit enter. Once you hit enter, what it will do is it will give you the list of all the components that you have available in your project, the project which currently you are in. For example, we have got a project called as local. So let's see, we have got local dev enabled. This is our component, local dev enabled. You get that local dev enable is your component, and if you select that, then what it will do is it will open the local dev in your org, in your browser. It will show you the preview of your component. You see here the preview. This is how it looks like. Now let me show you one thing. I'll basically go to the minimize window over here, and I will go back to my VS Code. I will also go to the minimize window over here so that I can show you how it is going to look like in the real time. For the time being, I will just have a simple screen over here. Now currently you see this is how our UI looks like, and if we go ahead and change the title, we will say local dev, and you see here as soon as you save your changes, your local dev is currently going to take into the place. Similarly, if I say, for example, in the local dev I wanted to use lightning badge, and then I just wanted to say label narrow, and you see here the UI has been reflected. You wanted to add any buttons over here. For example, you wanted to say LWC button, anything that you want, maybe button group, and you save it. That button group is not working over here. So that means this is again a limitation of button groups not being reflected. Let's try to add LWC button. As we talked about, this is a beta feature. Some of the components might not be reflecting. So the buttons are not reflecting. Let's try to change the standard icon to from account to contact. Okay, it's not reflecting. Maybe we'll have to refresh this page once. Yes, why it's not working? Because there are certain unsupported issues, like we have got lightning button. Let's try to remove this and see if this works after refreshing it. No, it's not working. Yeah, it worked. See, so the problem was that there was an issue with the button. That is why it was not working. If I change the body, we'll say card narrow body, save it, and you see here. So there are certain unsupported components for which it is not working at all. And then we have got basically certain components. For example, if we create a CSS file for this, let's create a CSS file. and we say local dev enabled dot css, and we are going to have a body tag here. For complete body, we wanted to have font family, just random css, just try to put random css over here, font family, and then say whatever the font family we want to have, and then certain like background color, then text color, then font size. And if you refresh this, save this, the changes are not reflecting. You might have to refresh this in order to see the changes. It's still not reflecting. So some of the changes are not reflecting, some of them are reflecting. Now what you can do is, for example, if you do a right click, deploy the Salesforce to org, even if you deploy the Salesforce to org, you don't really need to go to the Salesforce org. You just need to refresh this page, the one which you are previewing in the local dev. Looks like body is not taking into the consideration of local dev CSS. Let's say we'll say dot container as a CSS, and then we are going to use container here in the paragraph inside the class. We will say container, save it, and you can see here the card body has been changed completely. So the CSS is taking place, the HTML changes are also taking place. If you are changing only in the CSS, the changes might not take in place. For example, if I say with 100%, certain CSS I'm adding over here, and you can see here CSS is also taking place. CSS is working, but looks like it was not working for body parameters, like when we utilize body, and then we had something as a CSS over here like font size large, then it was not working. So when we apply to the entire body, it's not working, but whenever we are applying to the particular element, then it's working fine. You see here, this is changing. This is a simple component which I have showcased you by creating it. In this local dev itself, what you have is you have different UI options, like you can change the different UI and see how your component is going to look like. In the same way, I have got one component which is the data table, contact data table. You can basically click on this hamburger icon and you can change your component. And if you change it to contact data table, you will see that I'll try to maybe increase the width. You will see that this is my data table that I have got. This data table has got Apex class associated with it, which is displaying the information here, and the component which is associated here. If you go to contact data table, and this is the component which is associated under the columns, you can see currently the title column is disabled and is not being displayed here. However, if I uncomment it and save it, you will see the title component is also, the title column is also coming up here. Similarly, if I go and say I wanted to edit this contact email, because email is the field which I have enabled as inline editing, and try to save it, you will see the success message has came up over here and the value has been changed. If you want to see the refresh information, we can refresh the data table and we will be seeing the values now coming up here the way we wanted to look for it, the way we wanted to see how it is going to update it. So this is an amazing feature for the developers to do the faster development, to preview the changes at the real time. As I said, some of the changes you might wanted to uh, deploy to Salesforce org, and then you can preview at the real time. There are only certain components which you can see at the real time whenever you are doing the basic HTML changes. You are adding the new references to your HTML, basic CSS changes, you are importing the new CSS library, or you are basically utilizing the JavaScript methods. You are trying to change the JavaScript method. So these are basically the certain components. If you change it, then you can basically see the real-time preview, and for certain components you change it and then you will have to basically refresh your pages and you will have to maybe deploy your changes to Salesforce org and then refresh the changes in the local real time. What are the considerations? These are the certain considerations that you need to keep in mind. Like if you are creating an API property, your component is not going to load immediately or automatically. If you are utilizing any wire adapters, then also it is not going to load the component immediately. If you are importing any Salesforce scoped modules like fields, apex, schema, your component is not going to immediately reflect. Or if you are updating any of your JavaScript meta XML file, then also the component will not be reflected. The component will not be reloaded. What are my observation? This preview doesn't works well into the Safari. Even if you try to open your preview in the Safari browser, it will not work. I have tried it and it is not working at all. It doesn't support the reusable modules like JavaScript or CSS. If you have imported your reusable modules, the reusable libraries which you have created as part of another component, it doesn't support that. Component like sort host events and navigation doesn't work well. And knowing Salesforce, they might basically be creating or they might be making it more powerful in upcoming releases. But as of now, we cannot say anything because it is still in the beta version. So this is it about how you can utilize Lightning local development, and you can basically go ahead, try it out. Let me know what do you think, what are the limitations that you are finding, and before you go ahead, please give it a like, share, subscribe, and share it with your friends and colleagues. Thank you.